Zimbabweans will be heading to the polls to elect a president, members of parliament, and local government officials. Now, despite the upcoming elections, many say there is a slim chance that the political and economic situation will change, with basic commodity costs soaring beyond the reach of many and basic service delivery on the brink of collapse. When he assumed office, President Emmerson Mnangagwa said Zimbabwe was open for business. This was meant to signify his departure from former President Robert Mugabe's isolationist approach and open investment opportunities with the international community. After many false starts, the president's administration has doubled down on its efforts to mend relations and improve Zimbabwe's image. However, there seems to be no real solution in sight to address the myriad social and economic woes in the country. Alex Rusero, political analyst, joins me now from Mutare for more on this story. Alex, welcome to News Central Now. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you and good afternoon.
So when the president assumed office, he made many promises to the citizens and particularly to business people in terms of what he campaigned on, and then also the promises he's made to the citizens of Zimbabwe when it comes to the economic challenges. Do you think that the president has lived up to his promises? Has he been able to deliver?
Yeah, I think there have been some slight movement, especially during the initial days of his inauguration between November 2017 to around 2019. There was some modicum of sincerity to what President Mnangagwa had promised. But as years continued to unfold, the crisis that Zimbabwe is entrapped with, it's a crisis of reputation without change. The very same things that Zimbabweans and Zimbabwe experienced under Robert Mugabe, precisely with regards to issues of authoritarian tendencies, authoritarianism, are these very same things that continue to recur. If you look at the way the economy is also dodging the government, this is not new. This kind of recurrence is actually an indicator that we are trapped more in the continuity of the erstwhile days of former President Robert Mugabe. There are a lot of continuities in as much as issues of the economy, issues of the shrinking political space, etc. are concerned.
And interesting enough, when you talk about the shrinking political and civic space, in a few months, the country will be going to elections again. In terms of your observation, what does the playing field look like? Is there some level of equality or even fairness for the opposition political parties and those who may have a difference of opinion from the ZANU-PF?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate because de facto the opposition is banned. If we are to use that term, in de facto terms, the opposition in Zimbabwe is good as banned. It cannot breathe. So in those circumstances, you cannot then expect a free and fair election which passes the credibility test, especially when the government seems to be targeting prominent opposition activists, prominent opposition members of parliament, then to have an election at the backdrop of those said episodes, to have an election with a dark cloud of authoritarianism choking almost everyone, hovering on top of the Zimbabwe's electoral climate, it leaves a lot to be desired. So there's no way you can predict a feasibility of regime change in Zimbabwe under the current circumstances. So we are simply going to experience the same old story. Elections in Zimbabwe have been reduced to a charade where it is more or less voting without choosing, or if we want to put it that way, it's sort of some choiceless democracy. It's kind of a delayed match. We really know the outcome that come August, President Mnangagwa will be re-sworn in as the president. So those kinds of elections, they render the necessity of elections in Africa in general, and in Zimbabwe is in particular an exhausted idea. Elections are fast becoming an exhausted idea because the historical question of the day in Zimbabwe is that what is it's that the 2023 election is going to resolve which all elections from 1980 have failed. We have the 1980 election, 1990, we have the 1996, 2002, 2008, 2013, 2018. Now we are in 2023. So that's the historical question of the day. Do we really need elections in Zimbabwe?
So as you talked about the shrinking space, which we'd also call the opposition and civic space, there have been the arrests of activists, opposition leaders, anyone who really opposes the government as well. But let's talk about the people right now, because at the end of the day, you're saying that it's voting, but it's not choosing. It's voting, but it's not actually having the people elect the president and representatives that they want. How are the people, how are Zimbabweans feeling? Do you expect that they will come out? Or as you said, that it's just now an exercise that is not truly democratic? Will they just stick at home and see it through? Just grin and bear it to the end of another tenure?
Yeah, Zimbabweans have mastered the art of realizing or coming to terms with the reality that they are on their own. Under normal circumstances, you would realize that the state should perform its Aristotelian functions of delivering the public goods. But Zimbabweans are paradoxically living outside the state in terms of expectation, in terms of alleviating themselves from the miseries that they find themselves in. So Zimbabweans are on their own, the government is on its own, and unfortunately the opposition also is on its own. There is a broken system in as much as issues of national consensus is concerned. So you have a national consensus that is broken. You also have a nationalist project that ushered the Zimbabwean state, which is currently facing a threat, an existential threat. So everything is haywire. It's out of order. So it's not really about the people, because Zimbabweans, they are kind of a resilient people when it comes to issues of survival, issues of existence. And the unfortunate part is that they have learned that they can exist outside the state to the extent that only those who are very idealistic, they find solace in elections, in politics, etc. But majority of the people, they have resigned in despair.
All right, Alex Rusero, political analyst, joining me from Zimbabwe. Thank you so much. We'll continue, of course, to follow up to the lead up to the elections in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Sure.
And we